Okay then, observation. How exactly can we observe ourselves? We can do this in 3 ways. 1. We can plan our lessons with exact details, time taken per part, exactly what the aim is, activities, what the purpose is, and then reflect on it afterwards. Number 2. We can ask a senior member of staff or even just one of our partner teachers to sit in on one of our classes and observe us. Then afterwards we can have a discussion where we can get some constructive feedback from that teacher and we can both work on ways in which the class can be improved. Number 3, we can record ourselves. Whether you want to use a phone on a stand in the class, maybe an iPad, or you can use the CCTV system if your school has that. Whatever you choose, make sure you ask permission first of the parents, the teachers, and the students.
Now, let's think about the different categories for observation. You can pause here and see if you can come up with some of your own. Here are some of the categories that I use when evaluating myself or other teachers. Number 1. Teaching procedure. Is the lesson aim clear? Do they have a step-by-step plan and are they working towards an aim? Do they have a purpose within their lesson? Does the teacher use a variety of activities? This is about keeping the kids occupied again with purposeful and meaningful activities and games. No dead time, no chance for the kids to be distracted or misbehave or start getting fidgety or bored. Does the teacher encourage and discourage the use of English and native languages? Of course, this is not possible to enforce for the whole class. Kids are generally going to slip back into their native language, but it is possible to try and monitor this and minimize it as much as you can. Does the teacher manage the class effectively? And similarly, does the teacher use time management efficiently? Both of these aspects are very important to the class. We need to look at the behavior of the children and you need to look at how long you're spending on each activity and each part of your lesson. Are you spending enough time, an appropriate amount of time on things like reading, writing, listening and speaking, the 4 key main aspects? Does the teacher use different teaching strategies? Do they use cooperative learning strategies or student-student strategies? How much teacher talk time is in there? How much student talk time is in there? Do the students interact with each other? It is vital that the teacher mixes these aspects and methods into their lessons. Does the teacher have a purposeful lesson plan with minimum dead time? This reflects again on the use of a variety of activities and games within the class, but this specifically looks at whether or not there's dead time within the activities and how are the transitions between the different parts of the lesson. Number 2. Use of teaching aids. Does the teacher have a clear and easy to see whiteboard and blackboard? This falls under classroom management. Do your students need to be closer to the board to see it? Do some of them need glasses? Are you standing in front of it and blocking the view? Or are they at the side and they cannot see it clearly? You need to consider all of these aspects. Does the teacher have a clean and well organized desk? If your desk is full of papers and full of pencils and looking untidy, the students will have the impression that you are an untidy person, unprepared and unprofessional. Does the teacher write clearly on the board? This is a very easy one to do and it's very important, especially for the younger learners. Try not to write in cursive and try to write big, bold letters. Does the teacher make use of the whole brain method? This is something I will go into in more depth in a later video, but what I'll be looking for here is the teacher using different colors, bold letters to stimulate memory and retention? Does the teacher make use of learning aids such as flashcards, physical objects, and classroom areas and such? This is especially important when teaching younger learners. You need to make use of the things that are around you. If you're teaching school items, for example, use a physical object like a pencil, rubber, ruler. If you are teaching colours, get the children to find the colours in the room and physically touch them. This will help them remember and help them associate with the vocabulary. Number 3. Involvement in class. Does the teacher monitor and move around the class effectively? I like to see teachers making use of their room. If their room is quite large, you don't want children sitting at the back and hiding. You need to monitor. You need to walk around the room, make sure everyone is participating and make sure everyone is paying attention. Does the teacher make efforts to include all the students? Some students are naturally going to be shy. Some students are going to be quiet. Some students are not going to want to participate as much as others. It is the teacher's job to make sure that those students are included in the lesson. Does the teacher cold call and drill using different techniques? Much like including all students, cold calling is really important. You need to keep them on their toes, you need to keep them paying attention, and you need to call them out if they're not paying attention or trying to sit and do nothing. And on the same note, you need to try and make it interesting. Rather than just saying it once or saying it twice, get them to say it 3 times, 4 times in a funny voice. Get them to say it high, get them to say it low, get the whole class to say it, get them to say it in groups. You need to vary your techniques to keep it interesting. Does the teacher listen to the students? This is a small thing, but it's often quite important, especially if a student is trying to explain something to the teacher. Maybe they're uncomfortable, maybe they can't see the board, maybe they need to do something, or they have to go home early, or maybe they're just not able to follow the lesson or struggling. These are things the teacher does need to be aware of and they need to address within the class. Does the teacher have a grasp of the correct level and needs of the particular class? You need to monitor your students. You need to keep an eye on those who are struggling and similarly those who are performing really well. You need to also be aware of your school's policies and whether or not you can move students up, move them down, relevant to their needs. Does the teacher recognize the learning styles of his students? This is something you do need to do a bit more research on if you don't know about it already. I have done previous videos on this and I plan to do some more, but you do need to be aware of how do your students learn. Some will learn by visual stimulus, some will learn by listening, and some will learn by doing. It is important that over time you get to know your students and understand their learning needs. Number 4. Teacher's personality. Does the teacher have confidence? Of course, you want to look like you know what you're doing in the classroom. You want to give the students a sense of calm that their teacher is in control and has confidence in what he or she is teaching. Does the teacher smile and look happy? And does the teacher have energy and enthusiasm? Obviously, these things are important. You want to come across as a person that wants to be there and wants to teach them. Does the teacher show an interest in the student's learning? This is also important. The student likes to feel that the teacher cares about them, and this in turn improves their motivation and learning in the classroom. Number 5. Command of English. Does the teacher speak clearly and concisely? As well as this, does the teacher have a clear pronunciation? Obviously, if you're going to be teaching English, you have to speak clearly, you have to pronounce your words. They have to have confidence in your ability to correct them, and they have to be able to understand you. Does the teacher break down the sentence structures or new phonics? This is a good habit to get into. When you have a new phonics or a new sentence structure, break it down into parts so it's easier to understand for the students. Does the teacher speak naturally? Obviously, we want to speak in our natural accent. We do need to be careful of our pronunciation and we have to speak clearly and concisely like we spoke about earlier, but we want to speak naturally. It's good for these learners to hear different accents and hear different people speak in their natural tone. Does the teacher understand basic grammar rules? For obvious reasons, this is really important. You do not want your students correcting you because you can be sure in their school they'll be force-fed grammar rules. So make sure that you have a basic understanding of these.